Buddha once said, "We are what we think about most," and that's because thoughts become things. It is so important that you and your child develop positive thinking. The power and the importance of positive thinking is instrumental to success in anyone, not just yourself or your child, and anyone to succeed in life. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Schwandt, and our show is going to provide you some tools, inspiration, and motivation to success. We're going to provide you a show that will truly help you to dream big, think positive, and take action. We're going to bring you interviews from people across this great state of Kansas. We're going to bring you leaders from this community. We're going to bring you teachers, coaches. We're going to bring you military leaders and some great people to inspire and motivate you. So please stay tuned. We have a great show for you today.
Every individual has value and the right to be treated with dignity. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas support persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and are dedicated to the worth of each person. To help DSNBK give the best of a vast array of services, we invite you to log on to our Plan Giving website. It features valuable ideas on ways to plan for the future and receive benefits. Lives are transformed by your support of people with disabilities for generations to come. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas.
Hi, I'm Seth Castle, owner of Castle Books Publishing here in Hays, Kansas. I've purchased advertising time here on Eagle Community Television to help support veteran-owned small businesses in our community. So if you're a veteran-owned small business and would be interested in using this advertising time, please go to my website, www.castlebooks.com, and click on the Veterans Outreach tab. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
He cries in the corner where nobody sees. He's the kid with the story no one would believe. He prays every night, "Dear God, won't you please, could you send someone here who will love me?"
Help a child know they're special. Adopt. Call or go online to learn how.
Who will love me for me?
Simon's tax, accounting, and financial planners have been trusted by their clients for decades. At Simon's, they take a holistic approach with a comprehensive portfolio of services for their clients. Make your appointment today and enjoy a better tomorrow for you and your family. Simon's Tax, Accounting, and Financial Planners, 1007 Cody Avenue in Hays.
Welcome to Dreaming Big with Dr. Schwandt. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Schwandt, and I'm here with Craig Karlin. Craig is the registrar for Fort Hays State University. Right. Craig, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
And Craig, so you actually, my wife, Tommy Schwandt, my beautiful wife, worked for you when you were the director of financial aid at Fort Hays State University. Yep. So I'm sure we'll discuss that here in a little bit. But could you tell us a little more about Craig and kind of what you do at Fort Hays State University, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I only recently became the registrar, and I spent 22 years, 19 as director of financial aid, so I have a background doing that. Before I did some admissions work, some recruiting work, long before that, but the registrar, a lot of people say, "Hey, you're the registrar, what exactly is that?" And even my own family, a lot of people don't know what the registrar is, but registrar, kind of historically in higher education, was always the administrator who kept the records. So what people were enrolled in, getting them enrolled, getting students their transcripts, their diplomas, and doing a lot of the record keeping at the university. So I guess you can kind of see the registrar as kind of the chief record keeper, if you will, at the institution itself. So all of the academic information, so when you request a transcript and need to send it on to someplace else, we do that. If you need when we are involved in commencement, of course, and that ceremonial part of it and that sort of thing. But registrar is kind of one of those, everybody interacts with the registrar, but a lot of times we're behind the scenes a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell me a little bit about your time as, I have to know, as the Director of Financial Aid, working with my wife. So
And I'm not just saying this because you got me on camera, but Tommy was one of the best student workers that I ever had the privilege of working with, and I've worked with a lot of them over the years. But, you know, my wife and I, of course, love Tommy, and Tommy, she even, as I mentioned before, babysat for my boys, and they're in junior high and high school now. But Tommy was great. She really saw, as, you know, a lot of students don't necessarily see it this way, but she saw it more as a profession, the financial aid work that she did. And she was just good to work with, of course. And so we had a lot of fun with Tommy. She's a wonderful person, and it was a lot of excitement when Tommy was working.
Yeah, you know, she'd probably still be working for you if it wasn't for me moving around with the military. So.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Craig, what would you say inspired or motivated you to, I guess, be the registrar or work at Fort Hays State University?
Well, you know, I started off in, like I said, in doing admissions work. I was headed to law school, believe it or not, way back when, and you know, I was looking at, oh geez, you know, too much student debt that I had, and I thought I would take a break a little bit and get into higher education and work and doing the recruiting stuff of it. You know, most of the admissions counselor jobs at that time, and I think pretty much even today, are kind of entry-level positions where you're a road warrior. You go out there, you talk to people, you do speeches, you recruit students to come to any particular institution. Well, when I started that in student affairs, the vision, I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to stay in higher education. Mm-hmm. So, because I got to work with, at that time, my age was much closer to the way it is now, but once I started working with students and started doing that, I wanted to stay in higher education. And a little bit like you, I guess, I met my wife at Fort Hays, and she was a native of Ellis County, of Hays, and before too long, after a few years, I couldn't see myself any other place. I really love Fort Hays, of course. I'm a graduate of there, and during this period of time went back and got my master's degree and that kind of thing, and wanted to stay. Wanted to do that. Loved working, as I said, with students and doing all that part of it. I kind of happenstance started working with the scholarship program, and that led from the admissions part of it over to the financial aid part of it. And then soon after I was in financial aid, my boss, the director of financial aid at that time, was Carl Metzger. Carl retired, and it was, I applied for the job, got it, and so off I went doing financial aid. Again, I really love the financial aid profession, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. It's a very dynamic field. I mean, people don't typically think of that in financial aid, but they're all student affairs people. It's working directly with students and families, so I really enjoyed that. When this opportunity came along, I thought, well, it's an opportunity I can still work with students, and it's something a little bit different. I've done financial aid for quite some time. My heart is still there, always will be there, but it's, again, solid right in the middle of enrollment management and student affairs, and I made the transition, and it's been nice so far.
Mm-hmm. And financial aid, that office is probably the most interactive office. I mean, I'm sure as a student, that's probably, you're in there the most, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, you know, financial aid at the college level is, you know, it can be contentious because, you know, you are working with people and money, and anytime that happens, you know, there are issues, and you're dealing with federal programs which are complicated. I always told students in doing financial aid is that, and I'm not exaggerating, 95% of what it takes the student to get eligible for financial aid, the financial aid office and their staff and the student workers, like when Tommy was there and everybody else, we do that for them. It's the 5% that we need them to fill out the application, respond to requests, and stay on top of it. And you've been through the financial aid process too. It can be, you know, it can be confusing. So staying on top of that, keeping the students going, running interference for the students is the way we always saw it. And we wanted to make the process as good as it could be. And again, I always kind of quip a little bit about that, you know, we are dealing with federal programs, so, you know, you don't get a warm fuzzy all the time about that. But it was our job to make that bearable and to get through it.
I think my biggest memories from the financial aid perspective from a student, or besides interacting with my wife, you know, when she was working the front desk there, was I got put on probation for not attending class, and then working with the Veteran Affairs portion.
Yes.
So yeah, so my memories there from the financial aid office. We're going to take a brief commercial break, but when we come back, I want to chat with you a little more about some of Fort Hays State and some of the great things that you guys are doing. So we're going to take a brief commercial break. Please stay with us.
Learn more about us at januscampaign.org.
Your child deserves to know you care, even if you can't be by her side every day. If you owe the state of Kansas for back child support, we've got a new program that helps you pay down your debt while paving the way for your child's higher education. It takes just a $25 investment to get started. Learn more at www.dcf.ks.gov. Helping you build a healthy family and support your child to succeed.
Hello, I am Dr. Jamie Schwandt, and as a former foster child, I want to give back and help others succeed. I've wrote 2 books dedicated to foster families. Last year, I wrote Succeeding as a Foster Child. This book is a roadmap for success for foster children. My second book, Finding Your Hero, was recently published. This book is a children's book for foster children and provides a positive message for foster families. These books are great resources for foster families and can be found at jamieschwandt.com. Thank you and God bless.
At Eagle Communications, we're proud to provide the communications services you need to get the most from today's technology. Our employee owners make it happen. We're part of your community, and we take pride in delivering excellent customer service. If you ever have a question, give us a call. We're here to help. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Well, welcome back to Dreaming Big with Dr. Schwandt, and we're here with Craig Karlin, the registrar for Fort Hays State University. And Craig, before the break, you and I were chatting a little bit about meeting our spouses at Fort Hays State University.
Yeah.
So you met your beautiful wife,
Lisa.
At Fort Hays State.
Yes, I sure did.
And then I met my beautiful wife, Tommy, while she was working for you at Fort Hays State. One of the funny things that I remember about, you talk about meeting spouses at universities. So she was helping out the marketing department, and they using some of her images for some promotional material. And a flyer that they were passing out, and she didn't even realize this was happening, was they had her picture and another picture of a guy who wasn't me, and said, "Meet your spouse at Fort Hays State University."
You're kidding.
Yeah, so it was hilarious. And a friend showed us that, and I asked her, I said, "Do you know about this?" And she said, "No." So I thought that was funny. So she did meet her spouse at Fort Hays State.
Just not that one.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't in the picture. So I thought that was pretty funny. So Fort Hays State University. Every time I think about Fort Hays State and Hays, Kansas, and north central Kansas, towns like Kensington, Kansas, where I went to high school, Phillipsburg, Kansas, where I was born, Smith Center, Norton, Ellis, Victoria, Russell, everything around here.
I'm from Oakley.
Oakley, yeah. Oakley, another great little town in Kansas, and you know, the qualities that you attain here at Fort Hays State, the skills that you attain by living in these areas, you know, empathy, compassion, hard work, leadership. I mean, you just don't really find anywhere else. I've lived all across the country, moved recently from Washington, D.C., and, you know, those are great places, but you don't have the things that you find here in Kansas. You just don't find them there. So you find them at Fort Hays State University as well. You agree that you find these skills here at Fort Hays State University?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I've always fell in love with it. I'm a farm boy from Oakley, Kansas. I grew up there with 4 sisters and 1 brother, and, you know, my parents were out there, and, you know, I pretty much knew from as long as I could, you know, I had memories that I was probably going to be a farmer. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you know, I really miss it. But it didn't work out for me, but, you know, to stay on the farm and to do that. But that has been always the thing that's been, I think, punctuated Fort Hays State, is that you have this, that work ethic that, you know, I'm not going to say homespun necessarily, but just it's part of the culture in this part of the world. I mean, I think a lot of it harks back to the people that settled out here and did all that. If you want to live in western Kansas, you got to want it, right?
Yep.
Kensington to Oakley or whatever, and it's not the most hospitable place all the time. We always complain about the weather, but you know, that is what it is out here, and it gets under your skin, and you kind of want to stick around. I'm probably like a lot of people. I couldn't wait to shake the dust off of my boots from the farm and get out of here. And to me, Fort Hays was light years away from the farm. On the other hand, I have a lot of family that were around here. My dad grew up in Catherine, Kansas. He was one of 15. My mother grew up in Ellis. She was one of 14 kids, and so huge family in this area and all of that. So I felt like when I came to college here that, you know, there were people around. You know, I felt like I was part of a family when I came here. Not only that, but I had 3 sisters and 1 brother that came here before me, and I was the youngest, and I was just kind of following the pack in certain ways. But yeah, that work ethic, that part of Fort Hays State really being part of the western half of the state of Kansas, that, you know, I've always felt that there is a large difference sort of culturally between the eastern half of the state and the western half of the state. And, you know, me being firmly planted in the last quarter of the state, being from Oakley, and then here more in the central part, you really do feel that there is a difference between that. Of course, it's accentuated more as you go east, and that sort of thing. And it's really tough to put your finger on sometimes, but the thing is, it's one of the best assets of this area. That culture, that work ethic, that feeling of helping, and those sorts of things that you may not get everywhere.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I wanted to ask you, so the intent of this show is to provide advice for people or children overcoming obstacles. And some of the obstacles that I remember as a Fort Hays State University student, first 2 times attempting school didn't go too well. So I got put on financial aid probation and all that fun stuff. So any tips that you have for kids coming to school or families to kind of keep them motivated or engaged to stay in school?
You know, I think probably the best advice that I can give students, and their students now are different than when I first came to school, but then it was very traditional. You had the 18 to 21-year-olds, right? And you had people in graduate school and doing all of that, but it was a very, age-wise, very homogeneous group. I mean, that has all really changed in higher education. So a lot of the students that come now can interact with students from all walks of life, certainly age and, students from all over the country, cultures, and everything else, by virtue of the higher education being opened up because of technology, online courses, those sorts of things. So a lot of folks that were kind of place-bound, that were wired out, if you will, of higher education, have been able to come forward now, and it changes, I think, a lot of the culture that you see here. I mean, Fort Hays is an example. We have students enrolled from every state in the Union, in many foreign countries. And it is truly amazing. I mean, Fort Hays being out here, certainly our population base is still declining in the western half of the state, yet Fort Hays is growing in enrollment. And a lot of it is through the virtual college or distance education programs. But the one thing, no matter where you come from, when you engage in higher education, whether you're a non-traditional student, as we used to say, anybody over 25, or you're a traditional age student, then you've got to hit higher education. When you do it, get in and do it right. Don't jump into, I say this especially for the adult students that come in, don't try to jump in with both feet. I mean, that's a pretty good thing when you're going away for a college experience or a high school senior that's coming in, that's going to be a first-time freshman, or even community college transfer students or that kind of thing. They should probably take a full complement of courses, but when distance education and adult students come in, the reaction is, I'm going to start taking 12 hours. And it is tough to take 12 hours of distance education courses because you're not there. The courses are delivered a little bit differently. So I always tell students to walk before they run. That's the same thing, I think, with your traditional age students as well. A little bit different thing, but the advice I give all of them is that make sure you make a good start in your classes. If you do that, I mean, that goes even for high school students or whatever. I've got a boy in high school now and one in junior high, but start off the semester, start off the year, and don't slack off first and then try to make it up. Especially on the content and those sorts of things, make sure that you make a good start and keep at it, and that's how you're going to pull through. And I say that because of my own experience. It's really nice to go to college, and it's a fun experience. In fact, I love the college experience so much, I guess I never left. But the thing is, for me, is that, you can do it all. You really can. All students can do that. And college is not so much about being the smartest person in the room. It's about getting the content, getting through, learning how to learn, and applying that all the way through.
No, that's great advice. I mean, that's advice that I guarantee all of our viewers could take hold of. Before we go, I wanted you to provide. I'd love to have you all provide some great books, and I know you love to read. And we were talking in the break. You're a history buff.
Yep.
Can you provide one book, just one specific book that our viewers could go out and take a look at?
Well, we had talked when we were off the air here a little bit, but probably I do a lot of history reading. I have a history degree. I have also a master's degree in political science. So history is really my thing. I seek inspiration, I think, through historical characters. But probably the book that I think is most. I'm a student of Lincoln. I just love reading things about, and there's a lot of information out there about Lincoln. But one of the best ones that I had seen was by Doris Kearns Goodwin, and it's called Team of Rivals, and it was the recent Lincoln movie, again, not the vampire ones, but the recent Lincoln movie was based on that book. But it's basically, it talks about the political acumen of Lincoln, who was a homespun, backwards, many people people called him backwards, but he had a political and an intellectual acumen that we didn't see before and haven't seen since. Certainly not in the presidency. But he is a character that is historically is larger than life, and this book talks about how he put a very diverse cabinet together that were all rivals. A lot of them thought that they could do the job better than he could. Seward, as an example, who eventually became Secretary of State and a big advocate of Lincoln. And Stanton is another one. But how he pulled that together and how he pulled it off, I still don't quite get. But it was something that he actively did, and Goodwin does a pretty good job of explaining all that going through the book. And
what was the name one more time?
It's called Team of Rivals.
Team of Rivals.
Yeah,
all right.
It's about Lincoln.
All right, well, thank you so much, Craig, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. So it was a great interview, and I'm going to go out and read that book when we get down here. So thank you again. So that does it for our show today. Thank you all for tuning in, and God bless the United States of America.
Hi, I'm Seth Castle, owner of Castle Books Publishing here in Hays, Kansas. I've purchased advertising time here on Eagle Community Television to help support veteran-owned small businesses in our community. So if you're a veteran-owned small business and would be interested in using this advertising time, please go to my website, www.castlebooks.com, and click on the Veterans Outreach tab. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
Learn more about us at januscampaign.org.
Simon's tax, accounting, and financial planners have been trusted by their clients for decades. At Simon's, they take a holistic approach with a comprehensive portfolio of services for their clients. Make your appointment today and enjoy a better tomorrow for you and your family. Simon's Tax, Accounting, and Financial Planners, 1007 Cody Avenue in Hays.
Every individual has value and the right to be treated with dignity. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas support persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and are dedicated to the worth of each person. To help DSNWK give the best of a vast array of services, we invite you to log on to our Plan Giving website. It features valuable ideas on ways to plan for the future and receive benefits. Lives are transformed by your support of people with disabilities for generations to come. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas.